Can't believe that we are into 2020 now. 2019 had been really successful for us at Roman PT. We started a new office. We had more students than ever before. We launched some new products and new services as well. And now we are into 2020. For the last 3 weeks, I could not shoot any video because I was busy in some venture, and you'll soon learn about that as well. And in this video, I'm going to summarize all the important things I told you in 2019, which helped many students like you to get the score they desired. Now, one thing that we learned in 2019 was, if you are preparing for a particular target score, you do not need to prepare it in the same way others are doing. Or in other words, it's always more important to find out what you need to achieve and then change your plan according to that, rather than listening to everyone for everything they tell you. As an example, often people send me requests and messages asking where can they get the collocation list, or how can they prepare the collocation list, how can they memorize the collocation list. And when I ask them how much a score you are looking for, some of them tell me that they're looking for 50 plus. And my answer is, you don't need to go through that list. That's not for getting more than 50. That's for getting more than 79. So I can see here that many people have a lot of confusion about what they should do for their desired score. And that's what I'm going to discuss briefly in this video, which we'll be discussing in a lot more detail in the upcoming videos. So let's just start with 50 plus. If I'm looking for 50 and above, what are the things I must do? If you are looking for 50 plus, let's just start with the things you do not need to do. There is no need to go through 3,000 questions memorizing their answers. There is no need to memorize the list of collocations. There is no need to memorize 3,000 vocabularies. Although you can go through them and it will help you in the long term, but we have a time restriction here, and it's not a good idea to spend your time on something which is not going to help you immediately. So if your score target is more than 50, I suggest you just stick to some basic plans, be good in those areas, practice those questions, and then get your score. So what are those basic questions you must do to get more than 50 in your test? In speaking, you must be able to do read aloud and repeat sentence. In writing, there is nothing you have to do. In reading, learn how to answer reading and writing fill in the blanks. And in listening, practice write from dictation. So in summary, just 4 questions. Reading and writing fill in the blanks from reading, write from dictation from listening, read aloud from speaking, and repeat sentence from speaking again. Just practice these 4 questions. Practice them as many times as you can. What about the rest of the 16 questions? Be familiar with them, especially with the essay and summarized written text and spoken text, but don't spend too much time on those questions. For 50 plus, you don't have to do those questions more seriously. Also, don't try to memorize the collocation list, or don't spend your time practicing or memorizing the past questions, because although it can be useful, but you don't need to. That's how we help people get 50 plus in our institute as well. I always make sure that they're not spending their time on something that they don't really have to spend time on, because it will only overstress them, and perhaps that's the time they can utilize on something else, something more useful for them directly. Now let's say that you're looking for 65 plus. How should you modify your plan if your score target is more than 65? So if you're looking for more than 65, again, you have to balance the difficulty as well as the score you get from the question. So what I mean by that is, do not practice the questions which carry more points but at the same time are difficult and require more skill. Target those questions which are easier to answer but at the same time carry more points as well. So if you want to get more than 65, in the list of 4 questions I just mentioned, add a few more questions. In speaking, practice describe image. Learn how to answer describe image questions, especially by using the template and tricks. In writing, memorize a template for essay writing and learn how to do summarized written text using the strategies and tricks. In reading part, practice fill in the blank questions. And in listening, learn how to answer, summarize spoken text, and fill in the blanks. If you do this much, you can easily get more than 65. Again, let me repeat the questions I told you. In speaking, in addition to the questions I told you about 50 plus, also practice describe image. In writing, memorize the template for essay writing and summarize written text, but don't get into too much detail. In reading, practice fill in the blank questions. And in listening, practice, summarize spoken text, and fill in the blanks. This will be enough for you. In addition to these questions, for 65 plus, you have to work a little bit on your skill as well. So for that, practice academic word list. If possible, also go through the collocation provided by Pearson, but don't try to memorize everything. If possible, just go through the list once or twice, but don't try to memorize them. It will not be worth. If you do this much, you will easily get more than 65. Now, if you are looking for 65 plus, it's also a good idea to do some mock test so that you get a brief overview of the test. You learn time management and you get some feedback on your strong and weak areas. Make sure that you have someone to give feedback on these things, and you can take help of your tutor in that case. Let's say that you're looking for 79 and above, and that's a case for many of us. We're looking for 79 and above. These days, if you are planning to come to Australia, then less than 79 usually is not going to help you much for the immigration. So there are people looking for 50 and 65, and mostly that's for the academic purpose. And if it's for immigration, it's mostly 79 plus. Because when you get more than 79, you get 20 points for your immigration. But how can you get 79, and is it really possible or not? If I'm getting only 50 plus right now, should I spend my time working for 79 plus or not? These are some of the questions you may have in mind. First thing is, you can get any score you like, provided you have enough time and you are committed. Second, you also have to be very much strategic. Being strategic is not about memorizing the answers or learning tips and tricks only. One thing you must be clear about is tips and tricks can enhance your score by a few points, but they cannot change your score from 50 to 90 overnight. You need some basic skills anyway. So if you are looking for 79 plus and consistently you are getting very low score, then maybe somewhere in your skill set, you don't have the skills required to get this score. So explore those areas first. Find out where you are lacking, why you are not getting the score. Could it be because of your lack of understanding about vocabularies? Could it be because you know the meaning of the words, but you do not know how to apply them? Because if that is the case, it affects your reading and writing fill in the blanks questions. Could it be because you cannot spell some words? Then it will affect your fill in the blanks and listening and write from dictation mostly. So these are the things you have to consider. So again, rather than sitting in a class with a bunch of students and listening to your tutor telling you how to do the test, do some practice, get individual feedback, and try to work on your weak areas. Do not spend your time repeating the things you already know. Be strategic. Now let's talk about the questions. Those extra questions you have to do in a better way to get more than 79. In speaking, now add retail lecture. In writing, we have already covered both the questions when talking about 65 plus. Just make sure that you can answer these questions without making any spelling mistakes and with the use of appropriate transition expression. This will help you to enhance your score to more than 79 from the writing perspective. In reading, also practice reader paragraphs, but do not spend time on multiple choice questions. In listening, to the list we have already discussed, add 2 more question types, and in the order of preference. That means the first important question for you is highlight incorrect words. And if you still have time, or if you are still willing to practice more, then learn how to answer highlight correct summary. Ignore the rest of the questions. So basically, if we look at the whole spectrum of the questions here, we can divide them into very important questions, not so important questions, and questions you can ignore. And in a similar manner, we can say that very important questions, you must learn how to answer them if you want to get more than 50. Important questions, add them to very important questions to get more than 65. 79 plus, also learn how to answer not so important question, because all these not so important questions, when you do them together, when you add their contributions together, they become important. And for more than 79, also learn to ignore the questions which are not important, so that you can use your time in a wisely manner. On top of all of this, people who are looking for 65 plus and 79 plus learn time management skills, especially for listening. Because in listening, poor time management skill is often the reason for not getting the desired score. So these are some important points that I think will be important for you to prepare for your test. You want customized solutions, you want personalized advice, you want to practice in front of the tutors, you want to do the mock test, you want to access the lab. If you have need for all of these things, then please visit our center in Melbourne for the face-to-face classes. And if it is not possible for you to come to these classes, then join our online classes for the similar facilities. I hope 2020 will be very fruitful for you and you will get whatever you are looking for. All the best and see you soon in the next video.